Did you ever wonder how some parents homeschool multiple children? And they're all these different grades and ages, and you just don't know how it all comes together? Stick around, because today I'm going to share with you some ideas that you can take with you that show you it is possible to homeschool all of your children. Hi, I'm Rebecca with the Parent Teacher Bridge, where you can find the ideas and resources you need to empower you to be your child's most influential teacher. And I've been homeschooling for the past 7 years. I have a son who is 12, a son who is 7, and a daughter who is 5. Now, I do have many homeschool friends with a whole lot more children than I have, but it can be a challenge just for me having those 3 children doing very different levels of work at home. And I'm going to share with you some of the ideas that I think have helped me in my homeschooling experience. Tip number 1, do what you can together. We enjoy our together time. Usually it happens in the morning while everyone is fresh. Sometimes it may happen while children are still having breakfast at the table. And I usually have a little board that I can write on, a dry erase board that's attached to my wall. And we may discuss something like Bible, we may do a read aloud, we may talk about current events, or we might even go over a calendar. That has looked different depending on the year that we have been in. Now, this is my first year officially doing 3 children, but my daughter joined in with us last year when I called it junior kindergarten for her. Our together time, whether we're doing Bible, whether we're doing a read aloud together, it is important because it sets the tone for the day, where they can see that other children, even if they are their siblings, are doing their schoolwork too. Sometimes that was a challenge for my oldest son, as he had, younger siblings that were babies and toddlers, and he was alone and he felt like he was the only one having to do work. That's something that you can get sometimes in homeschool. So just understanding that everyone's got to be together, everyone has something that they are responsible for doing. And that together time can help bring everyone closer together, where you can see something later on that reminds you of what you learned or what you talked about during together time, and you share that bond and you share that experience. Comment down below if you have a together time, a morning basket time, whatever you want to call it, where you share something with all of your children at the same time. What ideas do you have? Number 2, expect age-appropriate responsibility. With that said, you know that having an older child, you are going to require that child to do a little bit more complicated work, maybe a heavier workload. You need to be able to expect some responsibility, that that child is going to have to do some work on their own. Maybe they need to write a question mark beside something that's difficult for them, so that at the end of a certain time period, they can come and ask you questions about it. Your attention may need to be on a younger child for a little while. For example, if you're helping a young child learn their ABCs, or if a young child is reading to you, or maybe you're showing them something with math and you've got math blocks out, and it's really important that you're not interrupted. Your older child is going to need to be able to work independently, at least on some subjects, for some length of time, at least a 15 to 20 minute period, so you can give some one-on-one time to another child. That's helped us quite a bit. Now, if your family has many children, like 5 or more kids in the family, you've probably already learned how you can delegate responsibilities to some of the older children, helping take care of some of the younger children. And those older children may end up doing some of their schoolwork later in the day or something like that if they are helping you out with younger children. They may read a book to a younger sibling, they may do flashcards with another sibling, and you can pay them and reward them for that, even if it's not with money. It could be with time or other privileges. Now, as you are establishing what it is that you expect from each child with those responsibilities, you may have to work things in phases. For example, if your child cannot work independently for 15 or 20 minutes, you may have to start off by seeing if they can work on their own for 5 or 10 minutes, and then each week increase that amount of time. You might also decide to start teaching only 3 subjects at the beginning of the year and then add on more each week as you go, and just kind of ease into the school year. Number 3 is adapt your schedule. How many times have I done this? This is crazy. I've even posted a schedule before, and it doesn't matter. Something always happens, whether that be a phone call, whether that be that someone else needs me, whether that be that a child goes to the restroom and they're gone for a little while and you have to go check things out. We have all sorts of interruptions that may happen. So I've actually moved on to not having a rigid schedule that's posted every day. It's important that you know what works for your family and that you're willing to change and adapt. So you recognize if something isn't working, you can change it, and you might find better success with the second thing or even third thing you try. Something also to consider is when you do your schoolwork. So if you're thinking about schedule, maybe your family is busy with something else in the morning. Maybe you're on a farm and you have morning responsibilities with some of the animals. Maybe someone else in your house has a difficult work schedule and you want to spend time with that person during the day so that you do school maybe later in the afternoon or even in the evening. You can even choose to have some of the school subjects done later on in the day. For example, once my children learn how to read, I have them practice reading various books, genres, fiction, nonfiction, and they practice reading them out loud to me so that we can discuss them, so that they can build their fluency. But that doesn't have to be in the morning. That can even be in the evening before bedtime, as long as my child isn't too tired. You know your own child. So don't be afraid to think out of the box, do some of the school things, even if they aren't during the exact work day or the traditional school day. Number 4 is to take breaks when needed. Those could be breaks for you as the parent, and those can be breaks for your children. If you have a child that is about ready to melt down, you may need to provide a safe space for them to walk away, get a breather, walk around outside, or do some kind of physical activity. Or if you have a child that's worked extra hard and they've been focused all morning and they haven't been wasting their time, you can say you get a 5-minute break or you get a 10-minute break. We usually set a timer in our household so that I don't forget and let the time get away from me. So you can set a timer, reward that child, let them go out, have a little break. They can go to their room, they can go outside, and then come back and they're a little bit more refreshed. You know, if you think about it, you do this as an adult. If you are sitting for long periods of time in a meeting or a conference or something like that, you lose your attention and you need to get up and walk around and get that blood flowing again. Number 5 is to use different areas of the house. Well, we live in a Pinterest kind of world, don't we? We're always comparing things we see to what other people have, and many of you might be interested in having a homeschool room. Now, I'm in my 3rd house homeschooling, and I can tell you my 2nd house did have a room dedicated just for homeschooling. And even when I had that, we did not stay in that room completely. You might see very cute pictures of other people's homeschool rooms, and it might work for them, and it might work for the personalities of their children, that they have, you know, a big board and they have decorations and they have student desks. But that has not worked for my young children up to this point in time. It worked a little bit better when I only had one child in school where I could sit right beside him, and he had a desk and he felt special, and it was just super cute. But for my children, we normally just gather around the kitchen table. And as I need to separate them, like if someone needs to be working on something quietly, and another child needs more room to space their belongings out, we might go to the family room. I might have a child working at the kitchen counter. If I can trust one of my older children to go read a book, they can go to their bedroom. They can even go sit outside. And sometimes we even homeschool on the go. So spacing your children apart can be effective because they're around each other all the time when they homeschool. So you can have higher chances of them just getting tired of each other and bickering. So it can be nice to have a little break from each other. Number 6. Make a to-do list for your children. Now, if you have several children that are really close in age, their to-do list might be identical and you can just post it somewhere. But for my children, what I've implemented this year is a to-do list for every child each day. They have a one subject notebook. I open the notebook and I write the day or which day it is of their year, like their 5th day of kindergarten or whatever it may be. And I write in a bulleted list of what activities they must complete that day. And each time they complete one, they get to color it in or check it off or mark an X. I really don't care. But they love seeing how far they have gotten, and it shows them that there is some end in sight. Now, for my older child, I might remind him to look at that list and say, look, you know, you're not using your time wisely, and you're only on your first assignment, your first thing to get done. Look how much else you have left to get done. So it can be a really good visual and reminder. And whenever one of my children finishes everything on the list for the day, they are very proud. Like, I don't even have to give them some tangible reward. I can tell them I'm proud of them, but usually they're just proud of themselves for having completed that. Comment below if you have done something similar in your home by making some sort of checklist or sticker sheet or something like that. You could definitely implement stickers with this sort of activity by just putting a sticker beside each item if you didn't want to color it. I hope these tips helped you. You can check out some free guides on my website, theparentteacherbridge.com. I have a survival guide for the new homeschooling family. I have a parent's guide to mastering multiplication facts, which will show you all sorts of tricks that you can do with your child. And I also have 5 quick tips to immediately help your struggling reader. Be sure to check those out. And if you have any comments, I'd love to hear those. If you have any questions, comment down below. Don't forget to click like and subscribe, and find the Parent Teacher Bridge on Facebook and Instagram. Remember, you are your child's most influential teacher. A couple of things to remember before you go is that when you are homeschooling younger children especially, not everything has to be in a worksheet workbook form. Now, some things they do learn that way, and it's very helpful because, you know, every time a child gets practice writing, they get used to writing something on a line. They can fix letters that they're writing backwards, and it does provide some practice, but they don't have to learn everything in the form of a worksheet. So let me give you a for example. When I taught 3rd grade many years ago, and the children were preparing for a state test, some of the things that they had to know were the life cycle of a frog, the phases of the moon. They had to know the names of certain weather instruments like an anemometer or a weather vane. And these are things that in my own experiences with my children, that in homeschooling, they can learn all that material without ever needing a worksheet. It's just different when you're not managing 20 students at a school that you don't even live with. These children, I live with them, so I know what I'm teaching them, and I can point things out when we're driving down the road. I can read library books with them, I can watch documentaries and all these kinds of things, singing songs, playing games. For the life cycle of a frog, we got a tadpole from a local pond and watched it grow for a number of weeks, and went to the pet store and bought some tadpole food. My children learned about it in real life. And you could certainly do some things like that in a classroom too, but you're not guaranteed that your child will have a teacher Who does that? Don't think that you have to make your homeschool look exactly how things look in a regular school. It's just not the same situation. It's fewer children, and these are your children. You live with them.